Hello, everyone, and welcome to the '07 podcast, a show exclusively about the films of 2007. Why 2007? Because all the great films, their lines converge on the year 2007. We don't know why yet, and we want to know why. And I'm here, and I'm Tame Orson. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Lucy Alfred. Lucy, how you doing?
I'm all right, mate. Yeah, happy to be here. Happy to talk about this film.
February 2026. This is the third episode in. It's almost like we're on a weekly schedule.
Almost.
Let's get on to tonight's 2007 great. And there are reasons why we've arrived at this film, but there's loads to talk about with this film. Going to talk about Werner Herzog's Encounters at the Edge of the World, a 2007 documentary about Antarctica and much more.
Or as the Americans in it say, Antarctica. Antarctica. I'm going to Antarctica. I'm like, no, you're missing a C, hon. There's an extra C in the middle.
I thought you'd like this film because it's got diving in it, and it's got penguins.
I did like it a lot. I've got lots to say about that.
We hadn't done a documentary yet. So Encounters at the Edge of the World had Oscar nominations, right?
It did, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look at documentary. Sorry, documentary. Oscar
Nothing like doing research on the fly.
Did you do any research?
I did do some research, yes.
I didn't really do any. I thought that this would be a film that is so rich that I wouldn't need to do any research.
Sure, okay, nice save. Love that.
It was up against Man on Wire. Remember that? Can you guess what Man on Wire is about? So Man on Wire won the Best Documentary Feature for that year. But this was nominated, so, you know, it's a swing and a half miss.
This isn't as good as Man on Wire. I mean, it isn't. It's good, but it's not as good as Man on Wire. Come on. And I'm not really a big documentary watcher, and I can say that I have seen both and think this is not as good.
Okay, I would have liked Man on Wire more if Werner Herzog was narrating it.
Yes, his voice and his delivery are brilliant.
Not just his voice, but like it's like a fun guessing game, trying to figure out how many syllables he's going to pack into a word and extra vowel sounds and stuff. Like he says, the way he says pole, like South Pole, sounds like two syllables.
Yeah, pole. Yeah, he does.
Pole.
The South Pole. Yeah.
Anyway, so let's talk about Encounters at the Edge of the World. Werner Herzog wanted to go to Antarctica. He says because he was inspired by some diving footage from one of his friends. But I think it was really because he had a sneaking suspicion that everyone at the McMurdo station in Antarctica had a story to tell and was like very quirky and interesting. And he did his level best to kind of pull all of that out of them.
Absolutely.
In ways that only Werner Herzog can. And they say that documentarians shouldn't interfere, right? They should be impartial and they never interferes in the subject matter. But I think Werner Herzog just has a sort of force field that messes people up and makes them do quirky stuff. Because that's what happens in this
film. A bit like Louis Theroux.
Yeah. He's like a more interesting sounding Louis Theroux.
Does it really?
Are you okay?
Are you okay? Yeah, he doesn't say much, but what he does say is just, I wrote in my notes, is he making fun of these people?
Yeah.
Because you're never quite sure. Like, he obviously is genuinely interested in them and what they have to say and do, because all of the people that go to Antarctica are scientists. They're analysing wildlife, flora, fauna, etc., gases, whatnot. And so it is really interesting, but like, as you say, like they are living in the least hospitable place on earth, so they've got to be slightly different to the average person, and all the different tales that lead them there. And so there is often like a peculiarity to them that I think he really draws out, but slightly does it in jest. And it sort of leaves it open to the audience to kind of work out, is he like making fun of them, or is he being nice, or is he, as you say, being impartial?
He's incapable of small talk, isn't he? I actually think off camera he's priming them to be their most interesting self. Not like in a produced way where he says like, I really want you to ramp yourself up to 11. But he'll just like he'll posit some weird ideas to them or some poetry or something that makes them instinctively need to feel like they need to up their game. I suspect that whenever he's in a room, everyone's like their little butt cheeks tighten up and go, oh, okay, I need to do something not crazy but like interesting. I need to be interesting, because he's certainly very interesting.
The guy with the fingers.
The guy with the fingers, yeah. All right, okay. So if
he was just sat there for ages, like awkwardly smiling, like, "Can I stop now?"
I love the fact that he does it again.
And then he like carried on like doing.
Yeah. All right. So there is a cast of characters in this film. I think we're going to have to go through a few of them.
Yeah.
We'll start with
brilliant. We need to start with this guy, the finger guy.
So there's David Pacheco Jr. He's described as a journeyman plumber who believes he is descended from Aztec royalty. And how do we know that? Because he points with his middle finger.
It's because the length of his index finger and ring finger were the same, and they were a lot shorter than his middle finger. And as a result, he pointed with his middle finger because it was the longest. When it is the longest finger, but it was a long one.
And in case if anyone was confused about what he's talking about, what he helpfully does for the camera is to demonstrate the length of his fingers by doing what's almost like a superhero power stance, where he does it's almost like he's about to cast a spell or something, where he shows you the length of his different fingers, and that's just for starters, right? Then we've got Stefan, the forklift driver, who is also described as a philosopher. Now, I've worked in my fair share of factories. I know a good many forklift drivers. I think Stefan wasn't the most philosophical forklift driver I've ever met. He did coin an amazing phrase, and that was that when asked why everyone comes to Antarctica, he said the lines of the world all converge here, and that's where you find all of these amazing people, and they've all come here, for that reason, because it is literally the edge of the world. And I genuinely think that he was just speaking from the heart there, and just tossing that one out there, one of his many little nuggets. But yeah, he was pretty fascinating. And what I loved about him also was that thinking that Werner Herzog would cut him to the point where he does a little nod to the camera to go, okay, I'm ready now. And then say whatever he was going to say, not knowing that Werner Herzog doesn't do that. He includes everything. So you get his little nod. You get his little nod at the start, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you've got Libor, who is a mechanic from Czechoslovakia, who escaped from Czechoslovakia, but he is so traumatized by whatever happened during that time that he kind of in no words at all speaks volumes and says, I'd rather not talk about it. And to make him feel better, Werner Herzog just gives him a little bit of poetry. And then urges him to talk about his go bag, which he keeps everywhere.
He's so traumatized by it.
Yeah.
Blimey,
the best.
Poor guy.
Well, so this is it, right? I couldn't tell if the go bag was a sort of connection to his past, or if it was, because he said it was like, I always have it. It's always ready for adventure. Or if he's just like, he just wants to go all the time. He's putting the go in go bag.
I think Werner, he infers that the go bag is subliminally, subconsciously related to the fact he had to escape from behind the Iron Curtain.
Yeah.
Because the way that the narrative goes, he talks to him about escaping and then directly goes, tell me about your bag. So I think he leaves it for the audience to kind of draw that link. And I think going back to what you said about the nod at the beginning of the interview, I think he leaves these things in and deliberately opens up these inferences to show everyone sort of vulnerability in a way, and their naturalness. He doesn't edit out any of the roughness, and he leaves it to feel really natural.
Yeah, he doesn't want slick.
No.
Yeah. It's a bit like Adam Curtis in that Adam Curtis is more interested in the awkward pauses before and after a soundbite than he is for the soundbite, because they tell as much of a story often. So yeah, I love that. You if you've ever seen any of his other documentaries, like I think the most obvious one is Grizzly Man. There's loads of stuff like that in there. There's loads of little moments with that guy. I can't remember his name, but the sort of deeply damaged guy who, was in love with the bears. And in those moments, it's almost where he's finished talking and he switches his camera self off. And you see it. You see him become or almost relax into like his real self. And there's some real like pain there. And Herzog, I think, has got a great eye for that stuff. I think he's got just a good eye for people.
Yeah.
And is capable of like pulling some mad shit out of them.
Yeah.
We've got William Jerser, who was the linguist, who starts to talk about a language that he was trying to say. Werner Herzog narrates over him, which is fucking amazing. And he does this twice.
He does it a few.
Yeah, he does it twice. So there's Karen Joyce, who is a traveller, who starts talking about some mad shit that she's done in her life, right? She's been like held up and held captive and like, driven across all these different continents. And Werner Herzog narrates over her as well. So, like to cut a very long story short, Karen did X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. But we need to go back to the linguist because he's excellent. He looks like he's in a costume. He looks, I wrote in my notes, he looks like Austin Powers' love child.
Yeah, he's got the most extraordinary Bond villain-esque beard as well.
He just epitomizes the quirky nature of the people that are in this documentary. He literally like embodies him and the English volcanologist who looks like he's modelled himself on Doctor Who.
Yeah.
He's got like the Tom Baker like massive scarf, tweed jacket, brilliant.
Yeah, so aside from that linguist guy, there's a few more. Well, we won't list all of them because there's too many. But there's Clive Oppenheimer, the volcanologist. From Cambridge, I think.
What a name!
I know, amazing.
Yeah.
Who I'm pretty sure Werner Herzog convinced him to take off his Canada Goose jacket for a little while to just show everyone his tweeds, so that Werner Herzog would have a nice little moment to talk about his tweeds and how English he is. That's really funny. He seemed like an interesting fellow as well. Just staring into volcanoes. Amazing. There's Kevin Emery, the survival school guy, and there's a brilliant sequence with him. One of my favourite sequences where they're teaching these folks how to survive during a whiteout, right? And they're all basically strung together with buckets on their heads to simulate not being able to see, being snowblind in very high winds. And there's a couple, they do this twice, and it's laugh out loud funny every time they do it. So while these hapless dudes are just trying to blindly find their way to the instructor, they just zoom in slowly on the instructor, who is nowhere near where all these guys are going. And it's just like, it just underlines how hapless they are and how fucked they are if this were ever to happen to them, because they had no way of actually surviving. That was really fun.
It's made even more comical because every bucket has its own cartoon face drawn onto it. Yes. in various levels of trouble, which made it funny. I wonder if those buckets always have those faces on, or whether they were done for the doco.
Yeah,
I'm going to tend to think they're always like.
Yeah, I think so.
We'll never know.
Yeah, I think my favourite was Dr. David Ainley, the guy who studies penguins. Who almost seems to live a lone existence, just watching penguins, and almost incapable of having a conversation with a human being, let alone Werner Herzog.
Yeah, and he gets so awkward when he asks him about, is it true that penguins have homosexual relationships? Is there such thing as gay penguins? I think he says. But
also he said, do you think penguins could experience insanity?
Yeah.
And that leads to some amazing stuff.
Absolutely.
There's so many just really fascinating folks in here. That's just a few of them. This whole film is peppered with like some real characters. And that is half the watch in this. And, combined with that, you've got all these kind of really beautiful visuals. And what I think is a really interesting score and just like use of sound.
Yeah.
But I could see why it wouldn't be for everybody.
Sometimes it is a bit much.
Oh, that was the other reason why I thought you'd be into this, Lucy, because there's a lot of choral stuff in this.
There is a lot of choral stuff in it, and I did very much enjoy that. That was very atmospheric. It was reminding me that the score reminded me of that episode of Song Exploder that I think, did you send it to me or I sent it to you, about the soundtrack from Dune?
Oh,
And how it was made. It reminded me of that because it's the choral sort of almost like Gregorian chanting music mixed in with the seal sounds and the twangly discordant violin really lends itself to the sort of alien landscape that he's sort of trying to pitch with the way he pitches it, basically. He even says, like, it simulates the moon, and he imagines a future where aliens look for remains of Antarctica and find the tunnels, and I really liked it. I liked that a lot. And it kind of again lent itself to that sort of, it is very creative, this documentary. Like, it does feel a bit indie. It doesn't feel like, it's not glossy.
No.
And it feels a little bit like, it's very philosophical, isn't it? Werner Herzog is a philosophical chap, so it's kind of, it creates this space that you're asked to reflect within the sound. He asks so many questions, like, where is the penguin going?
Well, we'll get to it, but like, I kind of feel like if they didn't have that moment, then this film would be lacking a centre somehow. It's easy for me to say that now because I've seen it. But Lucy, what were your favourite bits about this film?
I very much enjoyed the seal sounds. I did not know that's what seals sounded like. I found that incredibly fascinating, and it was a nice remedy because I didn't really like them doing the tests that they did on the seals, even though the seals didn't really seem to mind. They even said the seals are really compliant. I just didn't like it. Like, they just walked up to them and put a bag over the mum's head and took some milk from her. But I guess the only way we know anything about seals is through experiments like that, and they don't hurt them.
No.
So yeah. The seal sounds were super interesting. And I also loved in general that I learnt loads from a documentary that is 19 years old, that you'd think not that I'm like know everything, but like, obviously science documentaries, knowledge has moved on since then. But like I said, I'd never heard seal sounds before, and I love underwater stuff. So I don't really know how I missed the sound of seals. And I loved all the people. I didn't do any reading before I watched this film, so I didn't know what to expect. I thought it was going to be a wildlife documentary, and actually it's a really interesting analysis of humanity living in the extreme. All of them choosing to do it, all of them absolute experts in their field, and they're there, like I said, doing their experiments, helping us understand more about the planet we live on. But they also have to muck in and cook and clean and, look after the place. And it really reminded me of like The Expanse or some sort of sci-fi film or series where everyone's there living in really inhospitable conditions, having to kind of muddle along whilst also doing their job. So I thought it was that was super interesting. Loved the narration. I thought that was wicked. And you don't really often get narration in that way. Like we said, it's very unique.
Yeah.
And I liked how a lot of the time it was him narrating over the top of the footage, but occasionally you'd hear him actually asking questions because there was no conversation, like with the penguin guy.
Yeah.
He had to really like getting blood out of a stone. He had to like interject a lot, and I think he said like I didn't plan to do this much talking, but the conversation was difficult or something to that effect. So I thought that was great. I loved all the underwater stuff. Of course, as you said, love diving, but not interested in diving under ice. That's too scary. Particularly the section where he talks about like they can't have ropes and they can't use a compass because of the fact they're in the South Pole and the compass wouldn't work. That is not for me.
Yeah. Any standout moments, Lucy?
Yes. So the section where he goes into Shackleton's hut.
Oh yeah.
Shackleton being the first explorer to get to Antarctica. It was a really lovely moment where he's talking about how that was kind of like the end of the British Empire. It was like the last frontier.
Yeah.
After that, like exploration kind of fell into nothing. And then he said, and now all we have is people doing stupid world records in the continent.
cut to that guy, yeah.
And it reminded me of when I used to work for an architecture practice. One of the best way to describe him is elder, because he was like, I think he was one of the founders of the company. He still worked there as a consultant. He actually was employed to go out and do a survey of Shackleton's hut and to see what condition it was in, because for a long time it had been preserved because it is so cold there. And as you saw in the film in 2006-7, oh no, I said 6-7. It was left exactly as it had been when they left, with socks on the string drying. But actually more recently it's fallen into quite a bad state because of global warming. And it's not preserved as well as it was. And so the chap's name I can't remember, he had to get out there, but the only way of getting there was he had to make his way to Georgia, the island Georgia, not Georgia in America. And then he had to get on like this like freight ship, and he had to be at sea for days to get there. And then he had to do the survey and come back, and he was an older chap. But I found that really interesting because obviously this film does reference global warming-ish a little bit. Obviously right at the beginning, your iceberg man talks about that main iceberg melting and it moving north. And the effect it will have. And then towards the end, Werner talks about global warming and about how our demise is on its way, just like it was for the dinosaurs. But that's about it. Whereas with our 2026 lens, watching this film, does it hit different? It does hit different because we know more. Time's moved on, and I've got references like that, like knowing that Shackleton's hut is not in a good way after hundreds of years of being perfectly preserved. So that was a really interesting standout moment for me. What about you? What do you like?
I can't help but notice that you just said 6-7, Lucy. Do you want to explain to the audience what 6-7 means?
Nobody knows.
It's the whole point, isn't it? Okay. There was loads I like. I mentioned the funny editing stuff they did with the survival teacher guy. That was really fun. It's not a standout moment, but the overall vibe is so kind of unsettling, but also like there's sort of peppered with all these warm moments, like warm human moments, like the environment, the music, the sound, etc. can be quite unsettling. I think the bleakness of it, the vastness of it, all of it is like captured really well, and in a way that's like, doesn't necessarily make you want to be there or feel like you'd want to go there. And yet, there's all these people doing their best and making the most of it, and kind of they've achieved some level of comfort, whatever that means or feels like, in that environment. And that's all captured really, really well. It's funny. I was thinking about H.P. Lovecraft at the Mountains of Madness before we then meet all of these divers, and they start talking about the creatures that live under the water, and then we saw footage of some of them, and they were fucking terrifying. There was like these weird, like 5-legged, almost like crab-like creatures.
They're starfish.
Yeah, it's starfish, but like with long, really long, kind of articulated legs. That shit me right up. And then there's little like clams that are kind of flapping about. But immediately I was just like, that is so weird, that I was just starting to think. Because that book, or that that novella, I think it is, it's set on Antarctica, and it's about discovering all of these unknowable things, like cosmic kind of things that just we can't comprehend them, and they just make us go mad. And it was inspired by Antarctica. I think H.P. Lovecraft, when he wasn't being racist, was really fascinated with some of the early exploration stuff that was happening around Antarctica, sort of turn of the century, and then the following couple of decades. So he was writing about that stuff, and that like the first third of the film, it was just invoking that sense in me. So it's really interesting. It's almost like the film keyed in on that for me, and then starts to present all of these divers who are going down there and looking at all this stuff. I'm like, whoa, that's creepy. So that was very cool. I think it was just like a very vibes-based film. It was just lots of like trippy, weird stuff, quirky people. This mix of kind of like unsettling environment and sound and vision, but all of these people kind of being together and kind of seemingly, I'm sure they have their moments, but like getting along and just like they're focused on their own little things, right? It's like a little laboratory for everyone. All of that just cohered into a like really interesting, fun and funny watch, but at the same time, it's the king of profundity, Werner Herzog. So he will just steer it into something that's a lot deeper. At any moment, it's coming. It's coming.
Yeah,
he's just very good at this. Like he's just good at making these kind of films that are just very individual to him. They're very of his style. Like all of the conceits of documentary filmmaking, he will use them. Like he'll have some footage of walking into some space that you've not seen before, and he'll just like he's like, oh, I need a bit of me saying like, and for all the while I was drawn to this specific room. Like, no, you weren't. You just put that in there to make it more interesting, and like then there's a sort of 4-minute choral piece to go under this kind of lengthy sort of glacial footage that you've got in there, and so there's all the liberties that you'd expect from a documentary film being taken, but they're just elevated by the fact that he's doing them, and the way that he does them is so sort of unique. So I love all of that. Were there standout moments? I think the conversation that he has, as stilted and as awkward as it is with the penguin guy, is really, really interesting. That was a high point for me. Like that guy, talk about like a hostage to a documentary. That guy did not. That was a hostile witness right there. That guy did not want to do an interview, and he was but he was fine. Like he was not like a raving lunatic or anything. Just seemed like it seemed like he hadn't talked to anyone for years, and so it was the process of having a conversation with somebody was weird to him. But if you're going to go that long without actually talking to anyone, it may as well be Werner Herzog, right? Because like who else? So yeah, those were all kind of like standout moments. But we should talk about why we're watching it and the reason we're watching it. And this is accidental, I think, but the reason we're watching it is because when we get to the section about a lone penguin, and in internet culture, that penguin has been memed for decades now. Initially, I think it was called the Lonely Penguin, and then later, in darker times, the Nihilist Penguin. And then more recently, a week or so ago, it was referenced by the Trump administration. And it was just Be the Penguin, I think the memes were titled. Yeah. And it was about the right wing had used that footage and that dialogue of Werner Herzog describing that this penguin is not heading to where all the other penguins are going, which is to feed. He's heading into the mountains, which is not really where penguins are supposed to go, and they will die. And that penguin, that penguin is headed for, quote, certain death. And over time, it's been used as a sort of like expression of like, things are shit. The current US administration, they used it as a sort of like, this penguin is a defiant symbol of like doing the thing that you want to do no matter what. It's very strange, very sort of weirdly misused. Initially, it was in the context of Greenland, and people were laughing at them because there are no penguins in Greenland. They were being stupid. And so initially, I was like, oh, we haven't done a documentary. Werner Herzog, love a Werner Herzog film. Let's do that. And then coincidentally, the Death Drive penguin, which is featured in the film, becomes a meme again for like the third time, and so it's a bit of a coincidence, but it's an interesting one.
Had you always known that meme was taken from this film? No, because I've seen it and I assumed it was like March of the Penguins.
No.
The other documentary that actually Werner does give a nod to right at the beginning. He says I'm not going to Antarctica to make a film about a cute fuzzy film about penguins, which I thought was quite fun. But yeah, I always thought that clip was from that, or like just any other like nature documentary. But having said that, I'd never actually heard of this documentary.
So before I suggested it, I'd heard people referencing the current meme and didn't know what that was, but I know that it was associated with the Werner Herzog documentary.
Right.
And so I looked up that and saw that it was from 2007. I was like, oh man, we've got to do a Werner Herzog documentary if it's in 2007. And then all of the other kind of facts around that came tumbling out in the run up to and then after watching the film. So it's like a fun little addendum. Not really fun, but you know.
Yeah, not interesting, quirky.
Yeah, quirky.
Name of the game for this podcast, this episode. Anything you didn't like?
No, I don't think so. I think it's a trick that Werner Herzog has mastered in that there's no frills to this. There's no graphics or anything. This is all very, shoestring. But he makes it so personal and personable. And also, one of the other things that was impressive was that I don't think he ever stops working, because he was working on Grizzly Man, sort of 2004, 2005, and then he was making a film called Rescue Dawn, like a feature film. And also at the same time, he was making Into the Blue Yonder, which is a sort of docudrama, I guess. It's kind of weird. Brad Dourif. And then he's doing this. Now, this obviously probably isn't a huge amount of work for him in terms of like...
But he did have to go to Antarctica.
Yeah. Just insanely prolific. So I was just very impressed with that. It's hard to find fault really in something just so sort of simultaneously breezy at the same time, like the deepest you can get with like subject matter. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think there was anything I didn't enjoy. What about you?
I think actually a lot of the underwater footage, in my notes I've written underwater footage has come a long way, which is a bit snobbish, but it has. And I actually think it might have been better at the time. But then I guess I'm assuming the people capturing the footage weren't underwater cinematographers.
No.
They were divers that were given a camera, which is quite different. Yep. Also, equipment wasn't as good. And actually a lot of the handheld footage was a bit too juddery for me. Yep. But he does actually mention that he's filming this on celluloid. It's a really funny line. He's filming in the sun. He says, I loathe the sun on my celluloid and my skin. And I was like, blimey, crikey, he's making a documentary in 2007 on celluloid.
Yeah, I think we need to fact check this.
He said it, so it must be true, Tay.
Edge of the world filmed on digital. Yeah, okay. It's not celluloid. It's filmed on a Sony HVR, which is, you won't remember this, but the Sony HVR is the same kind of camera that they used to film Once.
Oh yes, I remember you talking about these cameras. Yes.
They just had more of them on Once, but so he's lying about celluloid.
Wow. Werner, don't lie to me.
He's a dirty liar.
That is unpleasant.
It's a little white lie, though, isn't it? It's fine.
No, it's not a white lie. It is a lie.
Yeah.
I suppose he is filming. Semi-true.
Yeah.
But think about the first, what was it called? Blue Planet. That was before this, and it was better. Yeah, Blue Planet episode 1, 2001.
Wow. Who would replace Attenborough if not Werner Herzog?
He's irreplaceable. Don't make me do this. I actually don't watch wildlife documentaries anymore, though.
Too stressful.
I find them too stressful. Yeah, because they're always about how we're ruining the planet and animals are dying, and I can't cope.
But also, they've become so much more manipulative, haven't they? Like they would never. They're almost like reality TV. They would never make you feel like, we've been watching footage of lions killing prey for donkey's years, right? But we've never, and there's been footage of like baby lions dying or whatever, cubs dying or whatever. But now they squeeze so much story out of that. It's like, oh, he almost made it, and we're like, we want you to survive, and then he fucking dies or something, or he survives, and it's like, oh my god, I'm so relieved, or oh my god, I'm so sad. I feel like they've figured out how to find new evil ways to like tug on our heartstrings to make it that much more impactful.
The cynic in me is thinking that they just do that to keep your attention because we're so distracted and we need a story, like a impactful story to keep us watching rather than just showing us science, right? But interestingly, I actually wrote about this when I was at uni. I can't actually remember why I was writing about it, but probably so I could watch lots of nature documentaries. From like the early years of making nature documentaries, and I bet you they still do it now, like to create a story. And obviously Attenborough, you know, he's Mr. BBC. He knows how to create good television because outside of nature documentaries, you know, he launched BBC Two, didn't he? He used to be the big cheese of the BBC.
Yep.
And so he and his team, etc., they know how to tell a story. And from quite early on, they would, if they didn't have quite the right footage of the specific activity that would help tell the story, they would just find it from another lion or another antelope. And so you might be watching like 3 different antelopes being chased by like a couple of different lions because in the moment you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. But yeah, so I think they've always done it. I think it probably just has got worse, which I'm quite glad this wasn't a nature documentary. It was more like a human documentary.
The replacement animal stuff is a bit like Hollywood, right? Breakfast at Tiffany's, that cat, there was 3 different cats.
Yeah.
and there's a sort of IMDb listing for one cat, and it actually turns out that cat is about 25 different cats.
Is this related to the video you sent me that I still haven't watched about cat acting?
Yes, you should watch it. It's amazing, folks. I shared a link to. I'll link to it in it. I'm not going to link it to anything else in the show notes of this episode, so I may as well link to the cat to the YouTube video about cat acting, which is amazing, right? Not only is it factual, but it is very entertaining about the reality of. How do you train cats to act? Well, you don't. You get multiple cats who can all do one thing on command because that's all you're getting out of a cat. It's fantastic.
Hey, my cat just said hello.
I know, that's all we can do.
My friend's cat properly said hello. She really did when you came in. She go.
I think basically, I think it's going to be either Benedict Cumberbatch who replaces Attenborough, or if I had any say, it would be Matt Berry.
Oh yeah, but that's because of his alternative nature narration, which you must have seen.
I haven't seen that.
Are you joking?
No, I haven't.
I thought that's why you're saying this. Dennis Waterboatman. No? Oh my goodness, you're going to link to this in the show notes as well.
Okay, fine. Should we do ratings?
2.5?
2.5, Lucy.
No, I will give it more. I'll give it I think 3.5.
I was going to say 3.5.
Yeah.
4 feels like, it was good.
Too good.
It was good, you know. I enjoyed it, but it didn't blow me away. 4's getting into blow me away territory.
I agree. It didn't blow me away. It didn't knock my socks off. Did learn a few things. I had confirmation of a few other things that I already knew. It surprised me. But it didn't rock my socks.
Yeah. All right, 3.5 each. That's fine. Good job, Werner Herzog. Well, I think that feels like we did it, right, Lucy?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did it. Folks, check out Encounters at the End of the World. It's fun. It's a fun movie full of fun people. They are really fun. Told by someone who knows how to pull out the fun in people. If you want to, you can leave us a review on your podcast listening app of choice. It helps more people find us, and we like it when that happens. And you should too, because people you know, especially people you know, they'll be like, hey, what are you listening to lately? And you'll tell them, and they'll be like, oh, you're quite cool, aren't you? And we want that for you.
Because we're really cool.
You deserve it. No, that's not what I'm
You
saying.
deserve that.
Folks, thanks for bearing with us. Turns out this film is really, really good. I didn't watch it at the time. I'm glad I watched it now. It's some fun stuff. And if you are terminally online, there's a reason that you should be watching it right now. And it's better than all the shit that's swirling around about it. Lucy, any last words before we say goodbye?
No.
Say
all good.
Say goodbye, Lucy.
Goodbye, Lucy.
Bye, folks. See you next time. Bye.